Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of TFG Radio. It's Adam, as always, who is sorta on the Wheel of Steels also, because as you can see and will likely hear, John is not with us. We are pre-recording this episode because none of us can make it on the normal night that we record live. But tonight we have Danny
Hey. Internet willing.
and don't jinx it. And starting to outpace John, we have Tom.
Like there was ever any doubt.
There's always a doubt.
There's a lot of doubt, actually.
We're
Yeah,
only,
quite
we're
a
only
bit.
2 months in, Tom.
I
Still plenty of ball game left.
Yeah.
I keep saying
It's
words.
early in the season. It's like a baseball season. There's like 300 games. So,
That's true. That is a very good comparison.
and just because you start out strong doesn't mean you'll finish strong.
Dodgers.
Rip.
Wow. I mean, you're not wrong.
No, I'm not wrong.
So,
He's not aligned, but he's right.
again, we're recording on Tuesday, the Tuesday after Cherokee Open. I just got back the previous night, late at night. So it's today was mostly decompressing after the weekend. We'll discuss a few things about it real quick. Trip was fine. A nice short flight considering the way back was a bit longer. I always enjoy going to Cherokee because it's a resort. It's in the mountains and it's really nice.
How's the food?
The food was all right. It's still hotel, casino, convention food. It's better than most, but I did not try the tacos this year, so I don't know.
Oh, no.
I don't know how good if they were
We're on
any
a
better.
taco update 2024.
No, I just wasn't feeling it.
The bye year.
The buy year, I just wasn't feeling it. So I just didn't partake. So if Kicker has them again next year, then we'll have it again. So, but it was a lot of fun. We used the QR code again, which we had used for SoCal Open and LVO. It wasn't utilized as much, I think, because unlike like it had more people than SoCal Open, but it was used more at SoCal Open. I think because SoCal Open is a larger space just in terms of size, while Cherokee was still everyone's compacted in the hall, and it's easier to call for a judge and just keep your hand in the air and wait for someone. I did have Jorge with me, if you remember him from helping with ACO and Las Vegas Open.
Mhm.
And
How's Jorge doing?
he's doing good. And I also had Eric Dixon and Jonathan Killiger, two new judges who helped out, and they actually worked out really well. So it was a really good time in terms of the other judges there. As always, there's always that one question that everyone seems to ask. This event, and it's different for each event. This event, everyone seemed to be asking questions about Oath the Moment. Not the same question.
Really?
Yeah, it's weird. And not this, because Oath the Moment recently had an update in the designer's commentary. But not the same question. It was different questions, but in regards to Oath the Moment. So that was interesting. We
Like
did,
what? And what you got any
well,
top
I
of
mean,
your
just
head?
like who could they oath? What could they do if they do oath? What if like situational stuff?
Right.
The other one, we got a lot of fight first questions also. I mean, not
That's
a
always
lot, not as
something.
much as oath, but there were a fair number of fight first questions.
That,
Because this
that was like
year,
LBO.
well, this year we had a lot more than the normal newer players or new players to an event or to a large event or to an FLG event, and they all seem to have fun. So
Well, that's what matters.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
that's
it
great.
was
Although it's surprising to hear that's Cherokee that so far wins that. You'd think you'd get a lot of new players at like a more regionally accessible one, I'd imagine.
for most of the players, it's only like a couple hour drive,
Hmm.
and it pulls from different parts of the South. So it's not just like one state. You have to remember the size comparison to like California, Nevada, Arizona, compared with the East Coast. So
I refuse to remember that. You can't make me. I lived there. I don't want to remember that again.
So it pulled, and there isn't. I'm trying to think. I don't think there's a large scale event in that area. There are large events, but not with the numbers that Cherokee has. Cherokee had about 200,
Mm.
almost 250 players.
Oh wow.
Oh wow, yeah, that's good size.
So almost the same as Atlantic City ACO. So it gives a lot of people that local area. And as always, XPZ was there because they're everywhere at this point. So it was, and there were some guys that had to travel from California to go out there, and a few guys that had moved out there that I got to see again. So it's good to see them. It's always a fun time with them. Um, so so we got
Anything
there.
cool happen?
So we got there. We set up. We'll just talk about it now since it's basically what everyone's talking about more or less. So we did have an issue with a player at Cherokee. We had issues with him on day one. He was penalized on day two. But we felt that the issues we were having with him warranted them not playing in the top eight. If you're unfamiliar with how Cherokee works this year, it's similar to LVO, where you play 6 games on the first 2 days. On the second day, if you top eight, make the cut to a basically 8-man RTT on Sunday, single elimination. So because of the issues we were having with him, and in addition to previous issues we had with him, and in him not basically not getting better, I guess is the way. I don't know how you describe it, Danny. If it's not
Not
showing
changing their
any improvement, I
behavior.
guess,
Yeah.
Right.
then we made the decision to not allow him in the top eight. And then there were some issues afterwards, and and the big news is probably, which you'll probably hear by the time you hear this recording, but just to clarify, is that he will no longer be allowed to purchase tickets for any of the FLG events for the foreseeable future, and that we'll revisit that in a future time. So unfortunately, we had to do that, and I mean, it happens. You for me anyway, you hope for the best. It's a teachable moment. Whenever I talk to people about doing events, I don't know how you feel about it, Danny, but whenever I do events, I tell people it's like babysitting.
A lot of the times, yeah.
It's more than a lot of times. And I, like I mentioned before, as everyone knows, I also referee soccer, and it's usually youth soccer, so it's kids essentially. And it's the same thing with that. You're just there to make sure everybody's having a good time, everybody's playing nice, everybody's playing ideally, above board, and you're trying to resolve things to hopefully to both parties' satisfaction. It's not always the case, and mistakes happen even on our end for the judges. But and you hope that the player or the child or even a parent, sometimes depending on the situation, can learn from any mistakes or any issues that arise. And if they don't learn or refuse to learn or just don't seem capable of learning and growing, then action has to be taken by the organization. So in this case, that's what we did.
Right.
So for the foreseeable future, that player will not be at any of our events going forward. So that was, it's just something that had to be done. It's not like it's not something I enjoy doing, but it's just something that, like, it's literally part of the job. So that happened.
Yeah, I think it's important.
Yes, Danny.
I was just say, I think it's important for people to understand that behavior is not self-correcting, meaning people do not change their negative behaviors unless they are acted upon by some outside force, usually the consequences of their actions. And if you're not providing those consequences, then people have no reason to change, right? So I feel like it's a very important step, especially if you do run events or want to run events, that you just have to get over the discomfort of telling someone, you know, don't come here anymore, don't play, you're not really welcome to play here anymore, because the only chance that they have of actually changing is to suffer a consequence, right? Like, again, someone has to, and this particular person is someone that I know I've had conversations with, Adam's had conversations with, and the kind of come to Jesus, come to Jesus
Mm-hmm.
talk of like, dude, let's talk about how you play this game. Let's talk about how you deal with people at the table, right? Like, your standard operating procedure doesn't cut it. So we need to change. And if, again, we've tried to give this person opportunities for growth and they haven't, so what else can you do but give a larger consequence and hope that's the opportunity for growth? Doesn't mean it will, but let's hope, right? That's always the hope.
Right.
Yeah, and even John has talked to him. Or you just let them cheat you on on a stream game like Tom did.
Yeah, sure.
Oh boy.
Tom just talks about you.
Well,
Tom just goes on his incredibly
Unknowingly,
popular podcast and
unknown. I
and
mean, in Tom's
cancels you.
defense, it was he did not expect that result. I'm assuming.
I mean, and to be fair, in my recap of that event, I specified that there was ambiguity in the intention, and I was simply reporting what had happened. And I think what ended up happening was the community at large made their own decisions based on the reputation. But I think that kind of also points to another thing, right? Because there's multiple things about, things like this where these unfortunate events occur, and there's different ways to approach it. And I think Danny brings up a good point about behavior. And, you know, one of the classic tests for insanity, right, is you keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, expecting a different result. Well, if you've got problem players that you don't address and try to correct, then that's the same kind of thing. I think another thing to remember too is that you can view all of these corrective measures in terms of helping the player, right? Because nobody plays this game because they hate it.
You're right.
Everyone plays this game because it's something that they love to do. There's some value to them, even if that value is a little twisted or misaligned at times in terms of how you treat others in that love of or pursuit of that love. But another thing to consider is that this is a chance when you do something like this, whether at this scale or something smaller, you're also helping the person save their reputation. And reputation, for those that don't care about it, is something that you find you do care about when it's far too late.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think if John was here, I'll channel him for a minute. It's also the reality of, if you have a problematic player, it's not just about them. It's about how many games are they going to ruin for somebody else, right? Like,
Exactly.
you're actually protecting your growth, you're protecting your player base, you're protecting other people by making sure that these, the people who don't act in a sportsmanlike manner, that they either correct or they're no longer there, right? Because, again, it sucks to play a game and spend a bunch of money to go travel and burn a bunch of family time and points and whatever else to, like, go someplace and then have one of your games be miserable, where you find out later that the person was doing X, Y, or Z or whatever, or even if they played the game completely legally but were just not particularly pleasant to play. It's like, wow, like, that person's event can be ruined, right? We don't
Yeah.
always remember our great games. We often remember our bad games, right? So
Right.
it's just, you have to, as a event organizer, you have to be proactive about locking down on people who are actually net negatives on your growth. They're net negatives on the feelings of your community and your player base. And, like, it's not fun, but it has to be done, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
And
in that regard, I do admit that we were a little slow in reacting to this. Maybe because we thought he would turn it around, or we thought he was turning it around. But another thing that ends up happening is Danny mentions this, the 5 or 6 players it affects. Actually, it goes larger than that. So I mean, so using this example, people aren't really talking about what happened in the finals or the Cherokee Open. They're talking about the player itself. So it not only takes away from other players' enjoyment of the game or the tournament, it takes away of the message the whatever tournament it is or the event that event or tournament is trying to convey. And
Yeah.
it becomes about them now, which is and that is what another consequence of letting something like that fester essentially. And that I think, and you know, and we, I mean, and by we I mean we us, I mean me also would probably partially to blame for that, because we didn't necessarily nip it in the bud, because this player has been a chronic issue for a number of events. Which brings up the other issue we often talk about is what is people coming up to us and letting us know when there's something wrong, or let us know when there's something going on. And one thing that did happen over the weekend was people actually did let us know, which is why we were able to correct it instead of waiting until after the event. So, and not just him, but other players too. So there were other, I had conversations with other players to, hey, maybe just work on this, watch out for this, don't forget this, and things like that, of that nature. Not as serious, but just a little reminders. Because it's a game with a lot of moving parts, and a lot of people can't remember everything. So,
Right. Well, and I think that also highlights a key thing, right? Which is, you know, it's not just it's not just you, Adam, or the judges or the event runners. It's a collective effort on everyone's part to ensure that the event and the game kind of stays sacrosanct in its approachability and its enjoyment.
mm-hmm.
And a big portion of that is not just the event runners who say, all right, well, based on what we've heard and what we understand, this is what's happening. The community itself has to be a part of that, and they can be a part of that without a pitchfork. They can be a part
Right.
of that by saying, hey, I think this guy's causing problems. Can you go talk to them? And, you know, I mean, I know for myself, for example, I'm fairly certain when I first started playing this, and as a younger man trying to learn to wrangle emotions and realizing that I was addicted to substances that were influencing my behavior and not realizing that at the time, that there were times where I would absolutely come off way too intense. And in my head, I was never angry at the person, but I was like so angry at myself, or just, like I'm just so in the moment of the game that I wouldn't be surprised if someone afterwards was like, yeah, man, that guy was not fun to play against because he was just too intense. And,
Right.
thank God I don't live in a bubble of, self insulation. And I had, people, whose names rhyme with Fathom and Lanny that probably corrected me more often than not. But the
If you
moral
mean
of the story
correct
being that
by me pointing it out and laugh at you,
Stop slamming tables.
I only slammed a table once, to be fair, and the guy was already kicking my ass.
Been more. It was more than
no,
once, but it's okay.
it's more than
It was only
once.
once. It's
It's more
once.
than once.
No, there's second
You
time
don't
I
even
know.
remember.
No, the second time I remember, and it was barely a touch, and Adam
Oh, now it's
immediately
okay.
realized
So the second time,
because I don't even register as a slam. The second time was me just like putting my hand down, and Adam immediately turns, just go slam the table, and I was like, dude, that wasn't a slam. That was me putting my
Oh
hand
my
down,
god.
and you were like,
Okay.
I
Okay.
remember that. I
Okay.
remember that.
Sure. Sure. Obviously,
Long story short,
Danny and I
Danny was 3 tables away when that
are
happened. Dave
misremembering.
was three
and I
tables
still heard
away.
the slam. And I
Oh
heard
shit! That was not the slam heard around the world. That was not the slam heard around the world. That was in SoCal.
yes, we all know.
The slam that brought 1,000 hangers
I think
down.
you better stop backpedaling before you trip. Anyway,
Anywho, I tripped a long time ago, my dude. Long story short, it's a collective effort. It's community and event runners, and it can be done from a spirit of let's keep the game what it needs to be. Let's keep the event something fun, and it doesn't have to be about a mob and pitchfork, but it does have to be kind of noted.
No,
yeah.
behavior has to be corrected for sure. We don't.
Well,
You don't need to
yeah,
put people on blast everywhere.
Exactly.
and that's kind of the same way I may say it's more like to sometimes like babysitting, because with one of the things that when with youth sports, when there's a foul committed, they almost expect some type of resolution. And when that isn't meted out, things tend to escalate because then they think, well, this referee's not going to do anything, so I'm going to have to do it myself. And sometimes that can get out of hand. So first course of action should be talk to the judge or TO if there's issues, especially if it's during an event.
Now I just want to go
Even
to an event with a mustache and like big glasses as a vigilante judge handing out yellow cards because I don't think the judges are doing the right job and I'm just handing out yellow cards,
um
taking the law into my own hands.
and even
Very
if we
popular these days.
can't even if we can't help you or we can't help get it resolved to your satisfaction, it at least gives you a proper outlet to vent and discuss what's going on and what could be improved upon. Because that's always the case with every event. Over the weekend during the top eight, we had someone actually drop because they had to leave. So we had an issue trying to find someone, and that became a bit of a kerfuffle. So, and we had to discuss with a couple of people about why they didn't go in, and why this person went in, and all of that, and it was eventually resolved. But and again, not to everybody's satisfaction, but it was resolved. I know in Age of Sigmar there was an issue also that I had to discuss with the player and the TO there, and that was more about how the TO does things and what the player felt how it should have been resolved, but how it actually is resolved because of how the TO was running his event. And I couldn't help in either case, but I tried my best anyway to listen and try to give them the reasoning why things happened the way they did. At least from my perspective, and that going forward we'll work on a better solution for it. And that's really all I can do. I can't, especially when things are after the fact or things and but I mean, when you have large events, there's a lot of moving parts, so a lot of things slip through the crack, but we tried our best, and going forward we try to do things better. At the end of so that happened with the player. Again, for those that are worried about this player being at other events, as far as I can tell, he's not going to be there for 40K. So, or at least for any GW, or at least for 40K. I can't speak for the other the other events, but I don't think. But so that was that issue. The rest of the weekend was fine. At the end of day 2, we only had 4 undefeateds, and so we had a bunch of X1s make it into the top 8. And then the eventual winner was a Thousand Suns player.
No, that's no.
By the name of, was it Noah? Man, I can't read that. I think it's Noondorfer. And then in second place, so it was Thousand Suns and Necrons in the finals. And so it was Noah and then Joshua Campbell placed second, and Chris Chance placed third. And I think Chris had Blood Angels. To be honest, I don't remember because I have bad memory and I'm still tired. So that was the top 3. All in all, it was pretty fun. Hobgoblins were there for handling the hobby aspect of it and helping with the Paragon and the paint judging. I know Danny and Jacob from Hobgoblin, our Danny, helped with the new rubric, which people seem to like. So we'll be using that going forward. I'm just glad it was done before Cherokee.
Right.
But people seem to enjoy it, so that seemed to go well. The top 8, I wasn't too with the issue we had with top 8. I think we may look into changing it for the future, mainly, but only for Cherokee and ACO. So at ACO, we may not do a top cut and just have everybody play a number of rounds depending on how many players we have before we get to a true undefeated. But ACO is a few months away, so we'll have to look at that more and then decide what we want to do. I mean, there's other ways
Yeah,
to solve. Huh?
I was gonna say, yeah, I've never been a big fan of. Well, we said we're doing a top cut, even if we don't have 8 undefeated. It's like, well, just
Yeah, because if we had just done everyone keep on playing, we could all we had to do is play 2 more rounds because we only had like 4 undefeateds. So we could have finished early. And if people don't want to play on Sunday, they can just drop. So
right.
it's not like we're forcing them to play. It's similar to the way GW does it, except we're not doing pods. So that's one option. I mean, a fair warning now in case you happen to see it if you're going to ACO. So, and if you don't want to play all like 8 or 9 games, then just you can always drop. It's not a big deal. You're still at a casino or in Atlantic City, so there's still stuff to do.
Right.
If you watch some of the stream, or were at the event, the other thing I noticed was how do I describe it? A severe
I
lack.
mean, I've seen pictures. It's a little oomph, guys. I'm just gonna say, like
It,
there was a time. I just know this is one of my. I get to.
Go ahead.
You you muted yourself, Danny.
Oh, you muted yourself, Danny.
I said
You
there was
mute.
a time. There was a time. Long, not long past, but maybe longer than now. Most remember, where
It was
40K
pre eighth
players very much
edition.
had. Yeah, had very 40K players very much had the reputation of playing with gray plastic and badly painted armies, and fantasy was superior because of this, and then Age of Sigmar, blah blah blah. And then I feel like that really changed. There was a resurgence of beautiful painted armies in 40K. A certain standard was met of like, no, if you're going to play at a large event, you're going to have a fully painted army, fully based. You're not going to take all the stupid little shortcuts. You're not going to, try and sneak one past people. You're just, you're going to have a fully nicely painted army. Now, so it doesn't have to be art. It doesn't have to be beautiful, but it does have to be battle ready, right? The way GW defines it. And I feel like we're slipping on that, guys. I feel like we're backsliding. I'm just being
It's more.
real.
It's more than a slip. So at the event, leading up to the event, I saw that a lot of the armies on the War Games live stream seem to be either base coated or barely painted. And then going to our event, I was like doing a double take because I was of the opinion that we didn't have that. In all honesty, but apparently we do, as Danny just said. so and I admit we haven't been I can't
Cracking down.
well we haven't been basically looking for barely painted
I've been
armies.
vigilant.
Yeah, we haven't been that. I was just looking for the right word. We haven't been vigilant in that regard. Like Danny said, there was a time where it was like, primed maybe at most, and the armies were there. There was the infamous at the time Nick Nodvati and his little Cocoa Puffs or little brown nugget nurglings, BS. And that's where we came up with essentially the 3-color minimum, and we had the infamous issue when someone left because Danny wanted to pull his whole army because it wasn't 3 colors, even though the guy wanted to count primer as a color, even though he couldn't see the primer because he painted over it. Oh, that's a whole nother story for Danny to tell.
Yeah.
And I and
Again,
like and like Danny said, it got to a point where we didn't have to worry about that, and I think we stopped looking for that. But I think we're sliding back into that mentality of because certain people are chasing the meta, or they want their army, they just want to start playing really quick. That we're seeing not even a bare minimum of the 3-color that we normally have. And I know the FLG painting standard guidelines was a bit confusing because I went and looked at it this morning, and I've updated it as of today of the date of recording, which is Tuesday, February 27th. I think what's that what today is?
yeah,
This
there
day
was
of our
one.
Lord.
Yeah. So so going forward for the foreseeable future, at least for Armo, We're not really changing too much, only in the fact in that we're going to crack down more on the three paint minimum. So if you're one of those guys that basically puts a primer, a quick dash on the gun, and then a dot on a lens, that's not going to cut it. And I think I put that it needs to be a substantial paint, 3 colors on the models, and at least a painted base. I'll give you that. But and for the stream, I'm gonna try to persuade whoever's running the stream, because I don't know. I think it's Joe, but I'm not 100% sure. If we're doing a stream, I'm gonna try to advocate for a basically GW Battle Ready to be on stream, especially because we're only doing 6 rounds and there's no top cut, no top cut. So we'll probably have multiple undefeated. So hopefully we can get the best painted undefeateds on there. But I believe we are going to be more strict in the 3 color minimum. So if you listening to this podcast or on YouTube and don't know if your 3 colors would qualify, go ahead and send me an email at headjudge@frontlinegaming.org and I'll let you know. But do it now. Don't wait until like 5 days. Don't wait till like a couple days before. Otherwise, you're going to have to... There is a hobby station, though, at the Hobby Goblin area. There will be. So if you need to fix stuff, you can do it then. And I remember we had... Tom, you remember Danny, especially at SoCal Open, having to paint his models because his models got pulled because they weren't 3 color.
Yep.
Not me.
Oh, not Danny. That was Danny Kwan.
Yeah.
Danny Kwan.
There's too many.
We have a lot of
Dannys
Dannys in our group.
And in the hobby in general.
Yeah.
So
Danny, we're lousy with Danny's.
Yeah, too many.
we have our quota. We have our fill of Dannys right now. No more Dannys. But yeah, so if you're coming to Armo, please be sure you're doing more than just the 3 dots or primer, gun, lens type of painting. Contrast is not 2 colors. It will be considered 1 color. Because we used to count. Remember, we used to count inks as a color.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not
That
a
was a
thing.
mistake. Yeah.
So contrast will still only count as 1 color.
For those watching right now, just put an example. This is not battle ready.
It's all 1 color.
No, well, let me get closer.
Okay, it's 2 colors.
No, there's like 3, but like it's not. I mean, it's technically like there's 3 colors, and it's like no, it's
so
not.
It might be
like
3
this
color.
is not battle ready.
Yeah. So it might be
this
3
is not
color.
good enough.
Yeah, it might be 3 color to play, but not battle ready for like the stream.
Right, like it's you got to do a little bit more, people.
Yeah. Or here's another example. This unfinished Skeleman, who is unpainted, not battle ready, guys.
That's a whole different issue because it doesn't even have his arms.
Yeah, that's not WYSIWYG.
That's old fantasy tricks.
In my head canon, they're spectral, so you can't see them. That's what makes them deadly.
God, that's a whole other issue. But yeah, so, and I think, you know what? I think part of it is we have a whole crop of newer players post when we initially did that, Danny.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's not something that they had to deal with, especially when they go to LVO or any of the frontline events.
Right.
Because right now it's been, well, it was pre-COVID, so it's been more than 5 years since we did that.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of new players since then.
There certainly are. I mean, I'm not, again, I'm not faulting people who maybe just don't know, right? Like they just have not.
But that's also
it.
on us for not keeping up.
Yeah, for not enforcing anything.
Yeah, for not.
Yeah, and not reminding people like, hey, and I did a little bit at LVO, like where I'd be like, yo, homeboy, that's not fully painted.
Yeah.
Right. Like, but I wasn't pulling models, and I'd be like, hey, during lunch, why don't you go buy some paint and like go like finish that base?
Yeah, stop by the Hobby Goblin paint station and put some more paint on it. Yeah, and I think we have to start doing that again. And luckily, with the Hobby Goblins, we might be able to use them to help look at that stuff and help people, especially at least teach them how to paint faster if they're
right.
Because it's really not that hard. I can paint an army within a week. It's not that hard when I really want to. Let me put a caveat on that.
I was gonna say, um,
I've done it, but
I haven't seen you do that in a while, to
that's
be
because
fair.
I haven't
yeah.
played in a tournament in a while. a while.
That's true.
Usually it's a
Yeah, it's
tournament
hard for me to
that
want to paint if I don't have a tournament coming up.
yeah. So usually it's a tournament that would get me to paint my armies. So without going to too many tournaments, I have no reason to paint because I hate painting.
For, for me, that's my favorite reason to paint. But
Because
occasionally,
you hate
like
painting?
it'll like for example, I'm no, I love painting and I love
Oh,
building. I love the hobby part of this. But doing it for an event is the primary reason I like doing it because it's like I get to like use it and show it off and blah blah blah.
right.
But like right now I'm building and painting a Tomb Kings box. And that's just because I haven't done any kind of hobbying for like over a year and I just got the itch. I'm
Dang.
just like I need to do this.
Yeah. So
Sounds like Steve
so
Doctor.
anyone going to RMO going forward after you hear this, I think it's in the packet, but it's you don't really see it. Just a reminder that we're going to enforce the significant three color minimum, which I think I put in the guidelines. And again, if you're unsure if yours qualifies, just send me an email, headjudge at frontlinegaming.org, and I'll let you know. Because I'm not really up to snuff on paint judging, but I can tell you whether it looks three color or not for our minimum standards. And if you want to be, if we ask you to be on the stream or you want to be on the stream, make sure it's GW battle ready. Because I'm gonna try to enforce that Rocky Rocky Mountain. BAO standards might be a little higher, so warning you now. There's plenty of time between now and BAO to get all your stuff up to GW battle ready.
What was
So
that famous line from a congressman when they were trying to define what adult content was? And he's like, I can't
I'll
give
know
you
it
a
when I see it.
definition, but I know it when I see it.
That's exactly it. I'll know it when I see it, and you may think it's fine, but you're not the one going around pulling models. I'll be the one going around pulling models. So
And just to rehash conversations we had a long time ago, like when the idea of any paint standard for 40K, because we kind of championed that. We were kind of the first major event to really do that, of actually having a standard. Um, it's not just about you. It's also about your opponents. And this is a cinematic game. It is meant to be evocative. It is meant to be a visual experience. And it is just not as much fun to play against a shitty looking army. Right. And again, that doesn't mean every army needs to be, like topped, like could maybe win Renman or can, get to showcase. That's not what that means. It just means it looks like you tried and it looks like you cared,
Yep.
right? And it's more or less complete now. And the thing is, especially with contrast paints, it is not hard to make a passing tabletop ready. It looks good at 6 feet army. It really
yeah,
isn't. Like the
Yep.
standard, like the tools we have are so much better than they ever were. So again, it's not just about you; it's also about your opponents. Because as someone who generally enjoys hobbying and really hates playing any kind of game without fully painted models, even just fun games, like I still try to have my models painted, just for that. Like it does suck to play against an army where it's like, yeah, you don't care anything about this. Like
yeah,
this looks really bad, and it's just think about the other people in the community, and honestly, you will like your army better when it's fully painted.
oh yeah,
I that makes me think of a game I played once back at the store that used to exist. It was a big old tournament, and I was playing against a guard player, and like there was some definitely like some it was not like a pro paint job whatsoever. There were things that kind of didn't look that great. I wanted at one point to be like my brother in Christ. Have you ever heard of the color wheel? Right, like various things.
I feel
But what I
attacked.
loved about his army was was everything was painted and based. There was nothing that didn't look like it had gotten a good amount of attention from this guy. And because of that, for me, it enhanced the whole thing. I looked at that army and I was like, yeah, this guy isn't a pro painter, but he put so much effort into this. I was like, man, I really like your army, because I could see the care and the dedication that went into it. And then the next round later, I played against a dark Eldar player, where it was like, okay, you primed everything black and then did a fancy trick with a purple airbrush and called it a day. You know, it's like, yeah, that effect was very well executed. That one thing you did for all of your models, congratulations. Like, that wasn't a good looking army, even though in the technical aspect was better than anything the previous guard player had done.
Do you have 3 colors?
Yeah.
Or was it the only 3? I don't know. To me,
Say that again?
To me, as someone that hates painting, it's not that hard, especially nowadays. But like I said, I think part of it is because we never like, well, I should say we, I say me basically, was not enforcing it as we used to, and I think now we just have to start doing that again because there is such a glut of events nowadays, and there's more choice that we have to step it up. Otherwise, you know. We're not too big to fail, so we got to get our shit together, or else we will fail. So if you're going to Armo, just be ready for that. I don't know if I'll pull models, but I'll at least deduct points. The 10, you're not going to get the 10 points for being battle, quote unquote, battle ready. If I feel you're not meeting the standards that we have. In all honesty, the low standards we have, for the most part. Trying to get those raised up, but baby steps. So fair warning. I'll mention it again in our next episode, because I think our next episode is like a week before I leave for Armo, or it's the Thursday before, or something like that. But yeah. So Cherokee at the end of the day was. I mean, as much as I talk about the issues that we had and things like that, it's still a lot of fun for me. So like, and there was a new thing I noticed in BCP, where if I do the pairings and someone drops, instead of leaving that person's name on there, it actually removes the name.
That's
So
cool.
like, if you're paired with someone, Tom, and they drop, you're now paired. You're not paired with nobody, and so that tells me that person dropped, and I just have to repair you with someone who also had a person drop, but around your same table area, which happened a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to do that. So
that's nifty.
Yeah, so that was actually pretty neat. I mean, they didn't. At least I didn't see an announcement, but I just happened to notice that when I was working the weekend. So it was that was interesting. They also had, like I mentioned, Age of Sigmar, MCP was there, and Legion were all had, and they had the 40K narrative at Cherokee on Sunday. So,
oh, cool.
For those that are waiting, I think BAO tickets are going to go up soon. I think in the next week or two. So once you have that, we'll have a better idea of what we're going to plan for BAO. That's the next event after Rocky Mountain. If you're going to Rocky Mountain, you should get a token. The player package just came out, so you should get a token in about a week. And once you get the token, make sure you upload your list. Last day for lists. Our rules cutoff is March 8th, so a week from this Friday. And then the list due date, I believe, is the 10th or 11th of March. So it's basically the Sunday or Monday before the week before. That's more or less what it is. Because Denver's only Rocky Mountain's only like 3 weeks, less than 3 weeks away. Jesus Christ, God damn it,
busy man.
It's
busy man.
It's only like a 15 or 16 hour drive. I was tempted to drive it, but I'd have to take like another 2 or 3 days off of work to do that.
No, man, just fly.
I know.
Jesus.
It's only like a 2 hour, 2.5 hour flight, maybe less.
And literally, it's cheaper than gas. So at this point, for just one person. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fine. Because I have the carry on. It's
Yeah,
just
like
in and out
to
real
me,
quick.
if it's 7 hours or less driving, then I'll probably drive. If it's any more, that's when I start seriously considering like, all right, plane ticket time.
Well, like for Boise, I just wanted to go on a road trip when I drove to Boise.
Yeah, I mean, and that could be, and if that's the point, then great. Like
And I just
you
did it
build it in,
once.
right? But if it's about efficiency,
then never again.
yeah,
No, I did it a second time, but that was with that was where I had the story
Alan, right?
with Alan. Yeah, where we saw the Flintstones car at some
Mm-hmm.
random motel, some creepy random motel. Jesus Christ, that guy. That one I flew in and then I drove back with Alan. So, but yeah. So BAO's coming up. ACO. I already have the judge team for BAO. It's basically Keith and I. ACO, I almost have the whole judge team, and then Dallas Open, I need one more judge, and then
When's Dallas?
that's in July.
Depends when in July. Oh, isn't that the same as the GW? As the Port or Spokane one?
I think.
Or Tacoma?
Oh, Tacoma. I don't know.
Yeah, isn't that? I thought we were figured out last episode that's the same weekend.
Yeah, there's one that's the same weekend, and like in opposite directions. Hold on, let me see. Whoops, that's the wrong thing. It's July 20th and 21st, which I think is the same weekend. There's one that
Yeah, I
is the
thought
same
so.
weekend.
That's what I thought. And I was hoping to go to one of those. I've yet to go to a G play. I've yet to go to a GW event, so I figured like, oh, it might be a cool thing.
They're all right. I'm not a big fan of the pod system. That's my only thing about it. Other than that, it's fine. It's GW. When I went to San Diego, they had a little kill the I think it was kill the Warhound Titan game mini game that you won prizes for, things like
That's
that.
cool.
But it was fine. I mean, it's GW, so
I just feel like I should do it just because I haven't. You know what I mean?
I guess.
yeah, I get that. That's why I want to do it, just to go to one.
I mean, if they wanted me to work it, I'd do that too. But we've established that's not going to happen.
Well, we can talk about that off air because I have a funny story to tell you.
Oh no, even better.
No, it's good, I guess, but yeah. So that's all coming up. Champions Cup, we're still working on, and you guys are playing, so I got to figure out which judges they want to use. And then I think we're still having SoCal Open, so that's a thing.
No, right.
And yeah, I mean,
Just don't know where yet.
I think it's still at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, as far as I know.
I thought they for sure canceled that this time around. It was changing and everything.
No.
Yeah, my favorite.
I don't know. I thought I remember hearing that at the event. I mean, I'm happy to be wrong. SoCal's the one I pretty much always go to. I'd love for it to stay the same.
To try going to LVO.
Wow.
I know.
I feel like you won't now, just out of some weird spite. There's some weird point.
It's getting there. It's getting close
What's
to that.
Right? We never. This is the first time Danny's like used it as a weapon.
throwing shade on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, here I am just trying to be a simple man building my two kings, catching strays. Like,
I can't say anything because it's my
uh,
two teams Tom's building,
Mhm.
and we'll be playing with. But
Well, you're the one who decided to switch immediately after the game came out.
well, yeah, because I had all
You
these
got all
other.
those models in the instant where they're like, "Oh, I should do this instead."
Yeah, that's fine. Well, then now, Tom, now you have someone else to play with, Danny. You should be
I
thanking
know.
me.
I'm not disappointed. I just need the rain to stop so we can actually go
I
play.
know.
I know.
Well,
We
when
could have,
if
yeah.
when my, I mean, you guys are all welcome to come to my place when my after my brother-in-law moves out. So, well, I'm too far for everybody.
Man, I ain't going even farther.
Well,
Well, if you want your old world game, you
let's
will.
put it this way: if we're actually getting waterlogged, I'm just gonna be like straight up. All right, we're just gonna play inside the garage, and I'll just have a fan blowing all the smoke out. Like I don't even care.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So, as you can tell, Tom is working on Tomb Kings. Danny's working on whatever that thing is for AOS.
Usharon, more Torque of Delusion,
Sure.
Giga Chat, cool.
That is a looking model. I
You
gotta
know,
say, I
although I
love
feel
that
bad
model.
for him because I got him, I built him, and he was kind of a pain in the ass to build because he has a lot of stupid little fiddly parts that I have to match up just right. And you know,
Yep.
get up to go do something with. I think my son needed my help with something in his room. Go over there. My daughter, left it on the table because I was painting. The kids were drawing. We're all having art time together. Uh, I come back and my daughter has proceeded to pick it up and just kind of chuck it across the room. And I couldn't find all the parts to put it back together. So he's kind of missing a few things, but it's all right.
That seems to be a Ruiz family tradition.
Yeah, I think it's how they tell me they're mad at me. I'm just gonna
Oh,
take one of your models and fucking throw it.
there you go. Well,
Which, to be fair, like they're entitled to their anger, I guess. That's why I give them other things to throw.
uh, I don't
But yeah,
miss
that
that.
was definitely a fun thing of like, where'd my model go?
Where
My
my,
daughter being like, it's over there, and I'm like, why is it over there?
I don't know.
And then I was like, oh, why is it in pieces? I threw it. Oh,
No,
why? It was fun to play with. I was like, okay, fair enough. Don't
at
know what
least you
else I'm gonna
didn't
get
like
out of you.
lie about it.
Yeah.
My kids are pretty good about just being like, nah, I fucking did it, and I'll do it again.
I don't miss that.
Just a straight goofy meme on a fucking years.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm already
I
planning
certainly.
if I ever have kids for whatever reason, it'll be when I'm in my 80s, so I don't have to deal with that because I'll be dead.
The Robert De Niro, huh?
Yes, that's the
I mean,
plan.
touche, man, touche.
Uh,
That makes you happy.
I don't know. I'll be dead. I won't be whatever.
You won't care.
Yeah.
I won't be
So
happy or sad, bitch. I won't know.
I am working on a number of projects all at the same time. So depends what mood I'm in. Working on some Aztecs. Working on some
Weird flex, but okay.
well, it's like Aztecs, conquistadors, and between that, then so those that don't know, I am building an Estelian army for Old World. If you don't know, it is basically Spanish, but in Old World. So, and I do have a bunch of conquistador box plastics. That's which is why I'm building the army. And
That's fair.
I 3D printed a cannon and crew. But that's more for the historical game, not for uh, the GW game. There's a lot of
I mean,
cross pollination with that army. So
well, that's fun.
I don't think anything really came out. I mean, the epic stuff came out, the new book. We talked about that a little bit because it's on a 2 week
Yeah.
pre order. The new Solar Auxilia came out, which I kind of want to get, but I'm not in a hurry to get because I know I won't build it or paint it anytime soon. So
And I'm backlogged, so you can't get me.
I know, right? I still have all that. Yeah, I still have the other stuff to do. So I'm okay. I'm in an okay place right now. I'll be changing offices in a month or two once my brother-in-law moves out. So I'll have a different setup. Hopefully by BAO. And I believe that's it. I don't think there's anything else to talk about. Plenty. There was enough action this weekend. As a recap, player that went 6-0 didn't get to play in top cut because he's being a bad actor essentially, and it finally caught up with him. And he's also he's basically not allowed to get a ticket for an FLG event. That's basically all there is to it, at least for the foreseeable future. And there'll be probably a change in format to how we do the 3-day events for ACO, and going forward for uh, Cherokee and ACO. LVO will still be the same because that's a whole different ball game in regards to like how that works because we have a
It
big
sure is.
yeah. Well, also because on day 3 at Vegas, there's stuff to do, and I don't even mean
Yeah.
Vegas itself. I just mean in the long war doubles. There's the narrative.
RTTs.
There's a lot of other 40K adjacent stuff you can play instead of playing in the main tournament.
Right.
Cherokee and ACO, all there is the RTT, and at Cherokee, for example, there were only 2 pods for the Sunday RTT. So
No.
there's this big empty hall, and if we want, and so the award ceremony unfortunately looked a little sparse. But if we give people the option to keep playing and maybe get a better record, then there'll be more people for the end. And in all honesty, all you have to do is drop if that's too much. If you just want to go 6-0 and drop, that's fine. Someone did it at LVO. They went 6-0 and dropped. They didn't play the shadow round. They just wanted to go 6-0 and drop, and they were okay with that. So, and it also allows people that if they need to leave, they need to leave. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
going forward, I am going to actually try to put out helpful videos like my after RMO, especially because there'll be a big break between RMO and BAO. I want to just look. I plan on putting out a video that talks about intent and examples of intent, and basically ways that intent doesn't work, especially if something's impossible to do, and talk about a couple other subjects in regards to like judge matters or TO things and things of that nature. So that's the plan. So make sure you like and subscribe and all that other jazz. We do have a Patreon where we give Danny once in a while gives a rant.
Yeah.
I still need to give a story, but I hope to do that fairly soon, even though I say that every time. So it's just a little content like that. It's not very expensive. And you get to then there's a fake Facebook group you can be in that you can talk to us directly and just ask us any questions, things of that nature. But I believe that is it for tonight. It's really just what went on this weekend. Tom, any words of wisdom, pearls of wisdom for everybody as a last word?
If you're building skeletons, super glue is your best friend.
Really,
Don't do plastic glue.
I like the plastic glue. It's just not working for you.
I I love plastic glue. The bottle that I had gotten was a little old, so it wasn't sealing as fast, but regardless, I've just come to realize that with spindly bits, really tiny connection points, your best bet is super glue and just hold for 8 seconds, gently put it down. If it doesn't fall off, just leave it alone, and that'll take care of all your problems.
Okay.
Otherwise, plastic glue just slowly does the descent of shame of I
Oh
haven't
yeah.
set yet, and therefore I am moving down. And you
While
wake up the
still
next
connected.
morning, and everybody's got droopy arm pose, but
Yes.
connected, and now your entire army is screwed. So that. So yes,
There we
spindly
go.
bits equals super glue every time.
Seems
Danny.
fair. Play games, be nice to each other. The whole be nice to each other thing kind of fucking matters.
It will if you're not being nice for a period of time.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, well, thank you everybody for listening or watching, depending on where you get your content from. Don't forget again to like and subscribe, and we'll see you. I believe the next one is in a couple of weeks, which would put us right before Armo, which means we'll probably try to pre-record again to not be live. So in the meantime, if you do have any questions, comments, or concerns, you can always send them to us on Facebook, either on our Facebook page or if you're in our Patreon Facebook group, you can just ask there. If you have any questions for Armo, you can email me again at headjudge@frontlinegaming.org. And again, everybody, thanks for listening. Good night, and have a pleasant tomorrow.
Later.
Bye bye.